So, enterprise architecture, the discipline in our framework is simply there. It's as simple as that. Enterprise architecture is a strategic path. As a discipline. So enterprise architecture is that town planning view. You'll see how that fits in the end-to-end approach in a second. But that in using this framework, enterprise architecture is about delivering your strategic design for your organization. At each one of these domains of design, enterprise architecture is the whole thing. No devs, solution architecture. Solution architecture is about completing this layer. On a project-by-project basis, okay, never try to boil the ocean. Don't believe you could possibly come in and do conceptual design for your whole organization unless you're fairly small, it might be possible. One of the problems in the architecture disciplines is that they tend to go out and try to do that, disappear off down a rabbit hole for 2.5 years and come back up, we got it! Sorry, the business has moved on. Let's go and do it again. All right, so let's look at the role. And this is the critical difference. Okay? Enterprise architecture, the role, needs to get involved down here. Okay, they need to sit in on some of the solution architecture work to ensure that those solution architectures adhere to the enterprise architecture of the town plan instead of building codes. But they need to recognize at that point they're no longer doing enterprise architecture. Okay? In fact, they need to be subservient to the solution architect. So there's a lot of ego-filled enterprise architects find it difficult to do it. And because a lot of them came from the solution architecture background, they can't stop themselves trying to take over when they get in there. No, you're going to have to let go of it. Okay, if you're an enterprise architect, you need to let go of your solution architecture. You need to be in there, provided that those guys adhere to the principles, and we'll see in a minute, the principles and the core things that you've defined at the strategic level that must be done to deliver on the business outcomes. Don't try to say, well, I could do that one slightly better than that. I think I've got a slightly better solution architecture than you have. And you alienate all the solution architects. But piss them off. It's not your game. Okay? To be playing around at the margin that says, I think there's a slightly better way of doing that. No, resist the temptation. If it's going to work, deliver the outcomes, it adheres to your principles, let it go. That's fine. Solution architects have to kind of, as they sit in the middle, spread out a little bit in either direction. The role. Okay? Solution architects, in our view, in every organization we go into and we're helping them establish their strategic enterprise architecture, we bring the solution architects in. A couple of reasons for that. They tend to be useful. They tend to have an awful lot of information about the company. And most solution architects can drift into enterprise architecture. It tends to be a neutral career path. An awful lot of enterprise architects come from solution architects, certainly was mine. But there's also great value in them being involved in that conversation and getting understanding for the enterprise architecture. So that being involved in the conversation when you're developing all of the things, there's soft people things, or having buy-in as well, because they feel like they've contributed to the whole thing. So it's extremely useful to get the solution architects involved. But they recognize on the flip side that they are now providing a subservient role to the enterprise architects. Okay, that it's not their discipline. They're there to understand it, they can still contribute, but ultimately this is owned by the enterprise architect. They also drift into the other side in a similar way the enterprise architect drifts into solution architect. These guys drift into the engineering aspect with the same role. They're there to make sure that the engineering for the solution actually adheres to their solution architecture. So they're in there kind of playing that role. So enterprise architecture is the discipline strategic only. Solution architecture is conceptual only. They shouldn't get involved in the detailed engineering. Enterprise architecture must be also involved in solution architecture delivery. And actually, I'm going to miss this point. Their role in there is actually twofold. First is, as I described earlier, to make sure that the solution architects actually adhere to the enterprise architecture. But they're also there providing another function. They're looking across all the multiple solutions, the multiple projects that are going on inside the organization, looking for synergies across them, looking for opportunities to leverage between them. Because solution architects tend to be in pockets working on specific projects, they don't get visibility to everything that's going on in the organization. The enterprise architect should and does. So one of the key roles I played, for example, as chief architect in Adelaide Bank and the Bendigo in Adelaide Bank, was to look across all the 4 different divisions, wealth management, retail, business banking, etc., and looking for where they had similar ideas and similar things they're working on. They actually, you can put that stuff together with wealth. There's an excellent project going on in business banking that can both use that same idea, let's put those two things together and just pull that once, twice. So they provide that cross all solution project role. As I mentioned earlier, solution architecture should be involved in developing your enterprise architecture, and they're also involved in logical design, software and engineering development. EA's never played there. Okay? Again, because an awful lot of them have come up from that path of software engineering, solution architecture, and on into enterprise architecture. There's a temptation to still think, I mean, I've been 10 years since I've done software engineering, and I would be naive in the extreme if I thought I could tell any .NET programmer how to do things better than I could. Because they go like, oh, I used to do that 10 years ago. Or in COBOL we do it that way. Unfortunately, some of my experiences back to COBOL. For a start, you'll make a fool of yourself. IT doesn't stand still, and you honestly believe you can still keep across software engineering 10 years since you last did the field, you're kidding yourself. There's not a chance. Any questions, by the way? Bonus beer if anybody asks a question. It's been more interactive. I feel like I'm just here talking. Some other architecture roles. I know we're here specifically to talk about enterprise architecture and solution, enterprise architects and solution architects, but I thought probably worth covering off the gambit of other architecture roles that there are out there. If you can start to see, hear more and more and Seek and other advertisements. So the first of these is the business architect. I like to describe them simply as a business analyst on steroids. And they're kind of that natural career path for a business analyst. So these guys need to be experts in Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, and all these models. They certainly, if you're working in a particular industry segment like finance, they need to be experts on what's happening in the finance sector, what are the big movements in that industry, understand that business very well. There's a big push in finance, for example, called disaggregation of the business model. We certainly expect the business architects to be across what that means, how that's affecting their business. So they certainly need to be much more detailed across the business knowledge than you would be in the other architecture disciplines. Then you've got various technical architect roles. We like to be called domain specialists, fits in with our architecture. Integration architect, security architect, infrastructure architect, comms network architects, etc. for each domain within technology design. So there are, and you'll see them all the time. So within that enterprise architecture framework I showed you earlier with the 10 domains of design and technology, they're pretty much specialists emerging in each one of those fields now. Certainly infrastructure architecture is becoming a particularly specialized field. Networks. We're doing work at Intinode. We're helping Intinode. We're doing a big replacement of all our IT systems. And we came in, and I laughed at it. I said, we'll help you with your enterprise architects and all those other domains and help you sit down and do this. But if you think I'm going to even dream of telling you how to do communications and network architecture, I said, I wouldn't, you guys can fill that one in yourselves. It's your bread and butter business. Yeah, it was very useful. We learned a lot from them on what's best practice in network design. But you pick your fields. So what about application architects? So those of you who want to probably see that advertised less and less these days. I made this point about 3 or 4 years ago, going self-fulfilling. Application architects are just highly specialized, or maybe not very grounded. Forgot one in the room. Always need one thing would blow up in my face at some stage. Okay, warning, I get out of there. It's a very dangerous place to be from a longer career longevity perspective. Like if you're, for example, a SQL expert, which is a classic application architect in the commercial world, or you're an expert in, terminal, one of the banking core systems, you can do quite well for a number of years, but that application state will move on. And if you've invested an awful lot of your career being the expert in that particular application, you better, I say, either be prepared to have a short career, or be prepared to significantly retrain yourself on a very regular basis. There's nice money to be made being a SQL expert, by the way. At the moment, they're paying huge dollars for a SQL expert, so you can make a killing because it's a niche field, but it's very short. And you better retrain yourself and move on. I made that mistake earlier in my career, became a cool gen specialist, and then CA bought them, and everybody just like to play. When I was left with nowhere to go for a year, you suddenly realize your whole career is based upon a vendor not selling their product to somebody else. You realize that's a dangerous place to be. I'm getting out of there. Yay! Thank you! Bonus points, yes.
But that's another one example where so in very recently the businesses really, I know eventually we'll be overtaken by something else.
That's not a bad one, and not a bad one if you're going to pick one. It's probably one of the ones that is got more longevity than the others. But it's days of, I wouldn't like to predict when it will go. It's also incredibly difficult to actually train yourself because you've got to spend the national debt to the SAP trainers to get yourself trained up there. It's not a bad one. If you are going to go that way, then it's probably one of the better ones out there. Primarily because of its nature, it's actually one of the better architected ones, and it's a little bit more bigger. I've got major issues with SAP and with Siebel, but for the sake of me not getting sued, I'll better not go any further. Yes, John?
Glenn, a lot of these architect roles seem to be defined by a particular sort of asset that they are custodians for. And therefore justify their role in an organisation, usually by the state of that asset. What's the assets that you would say are relating to the enterprise architect role?
Okay, that's a good question. We can get back to that here. We call them domain specialists because they are specialists in each one of these fields because they're the experts. An enterprise architect and a solution architect must be a jack of all trades. Okay, I, as an enterprise architect, need to know about all of these to a certain level of detail. I certainly need to be cognizant enough of them to be able to bring all of these things together. Okay, and then when I do need detailed knowledge, I go to the domain specialists. So the enterprise architecture, again, go back to that definition about alignment. To align things, you need to have a base understanding of what they all mean. So I have a rough idea about business process design. I understand business capability model, information architecture. Wouldn't be an expert in my background, as you know, John, is integration architect. So I can still consider myself, potentially able to do that as a domain specialist. But all of the other areas, I would have to go to the domain specialist if I needed that detailed knowledge. And again, when we go into organizations and help them establish the building codes, and we'll see this in a second, and help them establish the set of principles or building codes that we like to use in each of these domains, I would never dream of doing that without bringing the domain specialist in. So we're in ME Bank at the moment in Melbourne, going through that process when we're developing, as I was doing a couple of days ago, developing their strategic security architecture. I wouldn't even dream of doing that without bringing their chief security architect in and getting them involved. They know much more than me. They have reasonable knowledge about security, but you bring in the specialists when you're developing that stuff. So the short answer is enterprise architects and solution architects need to know everything, but not quite to the same level of detail.